had never imagined that his life would lead him to this moment. A simple mechanic from Earth, he was now standing in the midst of an alien court, surrounded by beings whose faces were a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The cold, smooth walls of the grand hall echoed with whispers as his name was announced. A human, a mechanic, was summoned to a planet ruled by a highly advanced alien race, a race that could easily wipe out entire civilizations with their technology. It was laughable, wasn't it? As Kai walked into the massive chamber, he couldn't help but feel small. The hall stretched high above him, with intricate carvings of stars and strange symbols that he couldn't decipher. The alien nobles, clad in shimmering robes, sat on raised platforms, their eyes fixed on him. They were waiting for him to fail. "I'm just here to fix something," Kai thought to himself, trying to block out the suffocating gaze of the court. The alien officials looked at him as if he were a mere bug that had crawled into their sacred space. Their eyes were sharp, calculating, and full of disdain. None of them believed that a simple human mechanic, with nothing more than his tools and his wits, could be of any use. Before him, the alien ambassador stepped forward, tall and imposing, with skin that shimmered like silver. The ambassador spoke with a voice that boomed through the hall. "You, human, have been chosen for a task. Your world, Earth, is known for its primitive machinery. But we have a challenge that no one, not even our finest engineers, has been able to solve. A challenge that has stumped us for years." His eyes narrowed. "We have called upon you, not because we believe you can succeed, but because we want to see if you fail in the most spectacular way possible." The ambassador's words stung, but Kai remained calm. He had been trained for this. Back on Earth, his small mechanic shop was known for fixing things that others couldn't. If it was broken, Kai could fix it. No matter how complicated or strange the problem, he always found a way. This was no different, right?
"Lead the human to the device," the ambassador ordered. Kai followed a servant down a long corridor, his footsteps echoing in the silence.
He passed through a set of enormous doors and into a darkened chamber. There, in the center, was the object of his task, a towering alien war machine, its sleek silver body glistening under the dim lights. It stood unmoving, its enormous cannons pointed towards the ground. The machinery seemed almost alive, its surface covered in intricate patterns and designs Kai had never seen before. As he walked around the machine, examining its components, the court gathered behind him. Their murmurs grew louder, filled with doubt and mockery. They had already written him off. He was just a human after all. What did he know about their advanced technology? A voice from the back of the room called out, "He can't fix that. It's beyond anything he's ever seen." Kai ignored the comment. His eyes studied the machine's structure, noting the odd placement of wires and the strange energy cores embedded within it. The more he looked, the more familiar it seemed. Something about this technology was not as alien as it appeared. He knew machines, he knew engines, he knew how things worked. And this was no different. The Queen's Guard stepped forward, an imposing figure in armor. His voice was cold as he spoke to Kai. "You have 1 hour to begin your repairs, human. We shall see if your species is as resourceful as they claim." Kai nodded silently, trying to calm his nerves. He reached into his tool belt, pulling out a set of diagnostic equipment. The alien court watched, their expressions a mix of curiosity and amusement. The Queen's eyes glinted from her throne in the back of the room, but she said nothing. As Kai connected the diagnostic tool to the machine, the lights flickered for a brief moment. The energy core hummed, a low vibration that seemed to pulse through the air. He glanced up at the court, noticing a few more skeptical stares. They were all waiting for him to fail. He wasn't going to fail. Not today. Kai bent down, tracing his fingers over the cold, metallic surface of the war machine. He couldn't help but admire its design, even if it was foreign to him. The alien craftsmanship was stunning. There was a beauty to its complexity, a kind of elegance in its raw power. But at the same time, it was clear that this machine was broken. Something had gone terribly wrong, and if it wasn't fixed soon, it would remain useless, just like the court believed him to be.
Focus, Kai told himself.
He opened his toolkit, pulling out a wrench and a few wires. He had no idea what kind of materials the machine was made from, but he did know that almost every device had weak points, places where energy could be rerouted, or parts that could be replaced. As he worked, he began to see how the system was designed. The energy core was misaligned. A critical component was overheating, and several of the conduits had short-circuited. With a few careful adjustments, he could restore it to full functionality. The court continued to watch him with raised eyebrows. Some whispered to each other. Others stared in disbelief. But all of them were certain he would fail. Kai could hear the low chuckles as he worked, the whispers growing louder as time passed. He ignored them. The queen, who had been silent up until now, watched intently from her high seat, her eyes never leaving the human mechanic. Kai could feel her gaze upon him, but he didn't let it distract him. If he was going to prove himself, he had to do it through his work, not through words. The ambassador, growing impatient, stepped forward.
It's been 30 minutes, human. You're wasting time. Kai glanced up, meeting the ambassador's cold stare.
Patience is key when fixing something this delicate, he replied quietly, his focus returning to the machine. The court murmured again, clearly not used to being spoken to like that. They were used to commanding, not being questioned. But the queen remained silent, watching, her expression unreadable. Kai tightened the final bolt, and the machine let out a low, rumbling sound. The lights in the room flickered again, this time brighter, as if the machine was coming to life. Slowly, the war machine's massive legs shifted. Its cannons straightened, and its energy core began to glow with a soft blue light. A wave of astonishment swept over the court. Some of the nobles stood in disbelief. Others stared in stunned silence. Kai stood up, wiping the sweat from his forehead. He stepped back, admiring his work. The impossible had been achieved. He had done it. The court was silent, their eyes wide with shock. The queen's gaze was fixed on him, a faint glimmer of respect in her eyes. For the first time, the laughter had stopped. Kai stood back, his hands still trembling slightly from the exertion. It was running, its cannons no longer aimed at the ground but standing proudly upright, ready for action. The once dead metal beast was now humming with power, its energy core glowing brightly with an unnatural blue light. For a moment, the entire room was silent, every eye in the court fixed on him. Their expressions a mixture of shock, disbelief, and just maybe a hint of admiration. The ambassador, his face pale, took a few hesitant steps forward, his usual confidence shattered. He reached out, almost tentatively, and placed a hand on the side of the machine. He pulled it away as though burned. The hum of the engine was steady, powerful. "Impossible!" the ambassador muttered under his breath, shaking his head. His voice was low, but loud enough for the entire court to hear. No one but our finest engineers could have fixed it. And you, a mere human." Kai wiped his hands on his coveralls and looked up. He didn't respond right away, but instead stood silently, allowing the machine to speak for itself. The court was still frozen, unsure of what to make of the human who had just completed the task that no one believed possible. The Queen's Guard, who had been watching closely, stepped forward, his armor clinking softly with each movement. His stance was rigid, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What is this trickery, human?" he demanded, his voice commanding.
How did you do it? Kai felt the weight of his words. The alien court had no idea what they were dealing with.
He had no trick, no magic. He had simply applied the knowledge he had, knowledge gained through years of hard work, back on Earth. He wasn't an engineer, not in their sense of the word, but he knew machines. And no matter how alien or strange a machine was, they all had one thing in common. They could be understood, one piece at a time.
Not trickery, Kai replied calmly.
Just patience, understanding, and the will to fix something when everyone else says it's broken beyond repair. The queen, who had remained seated on her high throne throughout the scene, suddenly rose. Her movement was graceful, almost fluid, as she descended the steps to the center of the room. The entire court watched in silence, their eyes glued to her every step. The queen was a figure of immense authority, her presence filling the space with a quiet power. No one dared speak while she moved. She stopped in front of Kai, her eyes fixed on the machine and then on him. Her gaze was piercing, and it felt like she was seeing straight through him. For a brief moment, Kai's confidence faltered, but he quickly regained his composure. He couldn't afford to let any doubt seep in now. "You have done what our best engineers could not," the queen said, her voice soft but carrying an undeniable weight. She looked up at the court. "This human has proven that we, too, can be taught, that there is more to the universe than our own understanding." There was a hushed murmur in the room as the queen's words sunk in. The court had always prided itself on its superiority, its advanced knowledge and technology. But now, a human, a mechanic, had shown them that their arrogance had blinded them to possibilities they had never even considered. The queen turned back to Kai, her expression unreadable. "You are no ordinary mechanic human." Kai felt his throat tighten. What did she mean by that? Was she just acknowledging his skill with the machine? Or was there more to it? He didn't know. All he could do was stand there and wait for her next words. "You will be escorted to my private chamber," the queen continued. "I wish to speak with you further." Kai nodded, trying to keep his face neutral. This was uncharted territory. He hadn't expected any of this to happen. He had come to fix a machine, not to be paraded before the queen herself. But this was the moment he had been waiting for. The moment that could change everything for Earth. The queen gestured to one of her guards, and Kai was led through a different set of doors, deeper into the palace. The hallways here were quieter, the walls adorned with strange alien art that made Kai feel like he was stepping into a different world. The entire palace seemed to be alive, as though it was a part of the queen's will, reflecting her power and elegance. It was a place built for someone who was not only a ruler but also a figure of immense importance, even among the stars. They stopped outside a large set of doors, intricately carved with symbols that Kai could not understand. The guard knocked once before the doors slowly creaked open. Inside, the room was dimly lit by soft glowing orbs that floated above them, casting gentle shadows on the walls. The air was filled with the scent of something floral and unfamiliar. The queen was already seated at a long table, her back straight and her eyes distant, as though she were lost in thought. She looked up as Kai entered, and for the first time, there was no mockery or judgment in her gaze. Instead, there was something else, something deeper, more serious. She was studying him, trying to figure him out, just as he had done with the war machine. "You are different from the others," the queen said, her voice low.
"You are not like any human I have met before."
Kai stood in front of her, unsure of what to say.
"I'm just a mechanic," he said, his voice steady.
"I'm not special." The queen tilted her head slightly, her expression softening. "No, you are more than that."
"You have unlocked something in this machine that no one else could. You saw beyond its surface, beyond its complexity."
"You understood it, and that is a gift." Kai wasn't sure if she was speaking to him as a person, or if she was simply acknowledging his work on the machine. But either way, it felt like she was giving him something that had been out of his reach for so long. Respect, recognition, perhaps even a little trust. "You have opened my eyes, human," the queen said, standing up and walking towards him. "Not just to your people, but to the potential for a different path. A path that could change the future of our two worlds." Kai blinked, trying to process her words. What did she mean? Could his actions fixing a broken machine truly change the future? It felt too big for him to grasp. I know not all of your people are like you, the queen continued, her voice distant, thoughtful. But your kind, you are capable of far more than we realized. Perhaps you are meant to be here for a reason. Kai swallowed, his mind racing. He had no idea what the queen was hinting at, but he had a strong feeling that he was standing on the edge of something much bigger than he could have ever imagined. This wasn't just about a machine anymore. It was about his place in the galaxy. About humanity's place. The queen's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, Kai thought he saw a flicker of something more than just authority. It was curiosity. Perhaps even hope. You have given us a glimpse of what is possible, human. And for that I will see to it that you are honored. In time, we will have much to discuss. And with that, the queen turned, walking away from him, her figure bathed in the soft light of the room. Kai stood there in the quiet stillness, trying to understand the weight of her words. He had come to fix a machine, but now it seemed like he had become part of something much larger. The doors behind him closed softly, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Kai spent the following days in a quiet, reflective mood. The palace, with its high walls and strange architecture, was unlike anything he had ever seen on Earth. The corridors seemed to stretch on forever, filled with alien tapestries and shimmering lights that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. It was a beautiful place, but the beauty felt distant, cold, almost out of reach. It was a world he didn't quite belong to, but a world that had suddenly become very important to him. He was a mechanic, a simple man from Earth. Yet here he was, standing in the presence of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were taking him seriously. That thought alone was enough to make his head spin. Everything had happened so quickly. One moment, he had been in a small shop back on Earth, fixing old engines and machines that no one else wanted to touch. The next, he was standing before the queen of an alien race, having just completed a task that none of them believed possible. Kai had spent the last few days repairing more of the machines. The queen had kept her word. He was allowed to work on whatever he could, and the more he worked, the more the alien engineers began to take notice. The machines were complicated, filled with technology that was beyond human comprehension. Yet Kai saw something in them that others didn't. It was in the patterns, the way the parts connected, the logic behind them. Despite how alien they appeared, these machines followed the same basic principles as the ones back home. Machines, after all, were built to do a job, and no matter where you were in the universe, that job could be figured out if you had the right knowledge. The court had begun to respect him, though they did not admit it openly. There were still whispers behind his back, still those who doubted him. But he had won over some of the more important members, and that was enough. The queen's words still echoed in his mind. You have opened my eyes, human, not just to your people, but to the potential for a different path. What did that mean? Kai couldn't understand it. Was she talking about more than just the machines? Was she saying that humans, he, could be part of something bigger? Something that might change the way their worlds interacted? He didn't know, but the idea gnawed at him. It was a quiet evening when the queen summoned him again. He had just finished working on the latest machine, a piece of technology that was far beyond what he had ever seen on Earth, and was resting in his quarters. The room was sparsely furnished, but there was a comfortable chair near the window where Kai liked to sit and look out over the palace grounds. The alien landscape was strange but beautiful. The sky was a shade of purple that Kai had never seen before, with clouds that seemed to float lazily in the air. He had tried to make sense of the stars in the sky, but they were unlike any constellation he had known. The summons came in the form of a simple message relayed through a small communication device.
The Queen requests your presence immediately, the voice said. Kai didn't hesitate.
He stood up, stretched, and made his way out of the room. He had no idea what she wanted, but it didn't matter. He had come to accept that his life had changed forever. Whatever was happening now, it was bigger than him. bigger than Earth. He had a feeling that his place in this alien world was still being defined. When he arrived at the Queen's private chamber, he was greeted by her personal guard. They escorted him through the familiar doors, and Kai stepped into the dimly lit room where the Queen was waiting. She was sitting at a large table, her fingers gently tapping the surface, as though she were lost in thought. Her presence, as always, was commanding, and there was a weight to the silence that hung in the air. "You've been busy," the Queen said, her voice low but steady. "You've fixed more than I ever expected. The machines are functioning better than they have in centuries." Kai nodded, though he didn't quite know how to respond. He wasn't used to receiving such praise.
Back on Earth, no one had ever acknowledged his work like this.
He had always been just another mechanic, someone who worked with his hands to fix things that no one else wanted to deal with. But here, in this alien world, his work was seen as something more.
"You have a gift," the Queen continued, her eyes narrowing slightly as she regarded him.
And I want to understand more about it. More about you.
Why is it that you are able to fix what others could not? Kai hesitated, unsure of how to explain it. It wasn't something he had ever really thought about. He wasn't special. He wasn't some kind of genius. He just loved working with machines. It was as simple as that. "I don't know," he said finally. "I guess I just see the way things work. When something's broken, I try to understand why. And then I fix it. It's what I do." The Queen studied him carefully, as if she were weighing his words. "You don't understand," she said slowly. "You may not see it, but what you did, what you've done, is not just about fixing machines. It's about understanding the heart of things, the core." "You saw something in our technology that no one else could. You didn't just repair the machines.
You restored something that has been lost for a long time."
Kai wasn't sure he understood what she meant, but he didn't interrupt. The Queen had a way of speaking that made everything feel important, even if he didn't always grasp it right away. There was a sense of finality in her words, as if she had reached a conclusion that he was only beginning to understand.
"There is something else you need to know," the Queen said, her voice growing quieter.
"Your presence here, your work, it's part of a much larger plan, a plan that could change the course of our future. My people have been divided for centuries. We've become stagnant, focused only on our own power, our own superiority. But you remind me of something we lost long ago. The ability to see beyond our own world. The ability to build something that lasts."
Kai didn't know what to say. He had no idea what the Queen was talking about.
He was just a mechanic, a man who fixed things. But somehow, his work had become more than that. He had repaired machines, yes, but had he repaired something else?
Was there more at play here than he could understand?
"The division among my people," the Queen continued, her tone growing darker. "It has caused much suffering. There are factions within the court, those who wish to keep things as they are, and those who want change. You, human, have a role to play in that change, whether you know it or not."
I felt a chill run down his spine. This was more than just fixing machines.
This was about something bigger, something dangerous. He hadn't signed up for this. All he wanted to do was go home. But there was no going back now, was there? The Queen stood, her gaze never leaving him. "You will remain here for as long as necessary," she said. "Your work is not yet done. There is much more to be repaired than just the machines, but we will need your help. We will need your understanding, and in return, I will give you what you seek. The answers you need." Kai didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this responsibility. But as the Queen looked at him, her eyes filled with a strange intensity, he realized that his life had changed in ways he couldn't have imagined. there was no going back. Kai sat in his quarters, staring out of the window at the alien landscape. The stars were unlike any he had seen before. They didn't form the familiar constellations that guided sailors and dreamers back on Earth. The sky was a patchwork of colors, a blend of purples, blues, and oranges, as though the universe itself had been painted in broad strokes. For the first time since arriving on this strange planet, Kai allowed himself to relax, if only for a moment. Everything had changed so quickly. Just a few days ago, he had been a simple mechanic, working on engines and fixing broken machines. Now, he was a guest in a royal palace, working on alien technology that was far beyond anything he could have imagined. He had earned the respect of the queen, and even the court seemed to be warming to him, though their respect was still a quiet, hesitant thing. They were not used to someone like him, someone who didn't come from their world, yet managed to understand things they couldn't. It was a strange feeling, being recognized for something that had once been so ordinary to him. Back on Earth, fixing things was just a job. It was what he did. But here, it felt like something more. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his hands over his face, trying to make sense of everything. The Queen had spoken of a greater purpose, something beyond fixing machines. But what could he possibly offer in a situation like this? He was just a mechanic. He didn't have the knowledge or the power to change the course of a civilization. And yet, here he was, a man who had stumbled into the center of a conflict that was far larger than he could have imagined. The knock on the door broke his thoughts. It was soft at first, then louder, more insistent. He stood up quickly and walked over to the door, opening it to find one of the Queen's guards standing there. "You are needed," the guard said simply. His face was expressionless, but there was a glimmer of something in his eyes, perhaps respect, or perhaps just a sign that he, too, was beginning to accept the human mechanic's place among them. "The Queen requests your presence."
Kai didn't argue.
He had learned quickly that it was best to follow the Queen's summons without delay. There was no telling what she needed from him next, but he had a feeling that his time here was far from over. Whatever role he was meant to play in the Queen's plans, it was only just beginning. The guard led him down the long corridors of the palace once again. The walls were decorated with intricate carvings and symbols, many of which Kai couldn't understand. The architecture was both foreign and beautiful, unlike anything on Earth. It was a place that seemed to carry the weight of centuries of history. When they arrived at the Queen's chambers, the guard stepped aside and gestured for Kai to enter. The Queen was sitting at a large table, a holographic display hovering above it, showing what appeared to be a map of stars. She was studying it intently, her fingers moving over the display, shifting and adjusting the image as though she were making calculations. "You've arrived just in time," she said without looking up. Her voice was calm, but there was an underlying urgency in it. "I've been reviewing the data from the machines you've repaired. There is something I need you to see." Kai walked over to the table. His curiosity piqued. The Queen's words hung in the air like a challenge, and he felt the weight of them. She had asked for his help more than once, but now it seemed like she was revealing something deeper, something more important than just machinery. "What am I looking at?" Kai asked, peering at the holographic map. The stars were laid out in a grid, with some points blinking brighter than others. There were patterns here, but they were unfamiliar. "These are the locations of ancient technologies," the Queen explained, finally looking up at him. "The ones that have been lost for centuries. My people have searched for them, but they have remained hidden. Some of these locations correspond to worlds we have already explored, while others are still mysteries." Kai leaned in closer, trying to make sense of the map. He could see the connections, but they didn't tell him anything specific. What did these ancient technologies have to do with him? "With humanity? Why am I looking at this?" Kai asked. "What does this have to do with what I've done?" The Queen's gaze softened, and for a moment, Kai could see something else in her eyes, something beyond the cold, calculating Queen he had met when he first arrived. "You have shown me something important, Kai," she said. You have shown me that there is more to our technology than just machines. There is a deeper understanding, something that we have forgotten over the ages. You saw the patterns, the connections in the war machines, and you repaired them. Now, I need you to help me find the rest of the pieces. Kai frowned, still not entirely sure he understood what she meant. You want me to help you find these lost technologies? The Queen nodded.
Yes, but it's more than just finding them.
We need to understand them. We need to learn what they can teach us, so we can use that knowledge to unite our people. The factions within my court have grown restless. They fear change, and they resist anything that might disrupt the order we've known for centuries. But I believe that these ancient technologies hold the key to something greater, something that will change the course of our future. Kai looked at the Queen, trying to read her expression. There was no mistaking the determination in her voice. But there was also something else. Something that he couldn't quite place. Was she asking him to be a part of something larger than just fixing machines? Was she asking him to help change the future of her people? He wasn't sure if he was ready for that kind of responsibility, but he knew that he didn't have much of a choice. "What do you need me to do?" Kai asked, his voice steady, even though his mind was racing.
There are 5 key locations, the Queen said. 5 places where we believe these ancient technologies are hidden. I want you to help me find them. You have the ability to see things differently, Kai.
You've proven that.
And now, I'm asking you to help us understand what lies beyond our reach.
Kai took a deep breath.
This was bigger than anything he had ever faced.
The Queen's request was not just about fixing machines anymore.
It was about something far more dangerous and far more important. He was being asked to help uncover the secrets of an entire civilization, to unlock the knowledge that had been hidden for centuries. "All right," Kai said. "I'll help you." The Queen's eyes gleamed with approval.
Good, she said. You are a valuable ally, Kai.
What? More than you know. The future of my people and yours may very well depend on what we find.
Kai stood there for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. The future of 2 worlds was now tied together in a way he hadn't expected. He had come here to fix a machine, to do something he knew how to do. But now, he realized, he was part of something much larger than he could have ever imagined. As he turned to leave, the Queen spoke again, her voice soft but filled with conviction. "I will see you soon, Kai. And when you return, we will have much to discuss." Kai nodded and walked out of the chamber, the door closing softly behind him. His thoughts were a whirlwind, his mind racing with the possibilities. He had come to this alien world to fix machines, but now he realized that the stakes were much higher. He was about to embark on a journey that would change everything, not just for him, but for the future of both his people and the Queen's. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the journey had only just begun.